And welcome to Theola Gaming. Here with me today is Jacob,
G'day.
Adam,
Good evening.
Joel,
Hey, what's going on?
and Mitchell, who's you haven't
Present.
met before now. And tonight we're going to be talking about the terrorism and the France attacks. And we're playing Killing Floor 2. That's the other thing I meant to do. Well, hopefully we are. Now all I see is the room too. We had this before, and it meant that the server wasn't working, and we couldn't do anything. Oh, it's because we're in wave. Is it? What? There's no one in this game.
It's gonna take a while then.
But what is the gaming if not technical difficulties?
Yeah, that's true. Alright guys, back to the title screen, because we're in another bugged game.
Alrighty. And Theolo Gaming is actually an acronym. The T stands for technical difficulties, and the rest of it doesn't stand for anything.
Alright. Just so you know guys, this is actually a really fun game, but it's in early access still, so it has all manner of bugs like these. And that is what's going on. So I would recommend it, but yeah, it's got its dodgy bits. Not help that we're in Australia, and Australia is not great for internet and servers and stuff. But anyway,
No, it is not.
let's start our discussion. So the Paris attacks. I'm
They were
pretty
bad.
pretty sure everyone's heard about them. It was 8 or so attacks, all coordinated across France. I don't think it was just Paris. Some bombings, some automatic, like firing into a crowd things, and a whole bunch of really bad things. Done in the name of ISIS. Everyone in game?
Everyone
I'm loading in
is.
still.
Cool. Done in the name of ISIS, the Islamic jihadist terrorist group in Syria and parts of Iraq, I'm pretty sure.
More Zeds on the way. Start to wrap things up, as they say.
Feeling grand, aye.
So what did you want to discuss first, Jesse?
Yeah, I didn't have a segue for this one. Right, so let's talk about
Glad you made it back. Don't bleed on anything.
terrorism. What makes this different, and what makes these guys different from a regular war? Like, why is ISIS bad, whereas say
Time's up.
World War II wasn't as bad?
Because ISIS aren't on our side.
To be fair, there's a lot more complexity here than the usual. These aren't our allies.
Well, obviously both are bad, but I think one of the biggest difficulties was, in particular world wars, it's very easy to distinguish between civilian and enemy. With ISIS, it's much more difficult. Particularly since the areas that they hang out are around civilians, so it's not like this is ISIS territory held only by ISIS with no civilian casualties, etc. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we like our motor if it's like more structured. Yeah, well, World War II was a lot of the different sides conducted themselves according to the various warfare conventions, whereas ISIS doesn't subscribe to any of that.
Well, I think that's just terrorism in general.
Or
Yeah.
generally, yeah, well.
Even though the term's kind of been turned to anyone waging war that we don't like these days, or even anyone we don't like.
Yes, I mean
It's not the most useful term anymore, but generally it refers
it has
to
its academic meaning, but
yeah. It's more guerrilla style attacks on guerrilla being like not large armies marching attacking military targets. It's small armies of guys attacking and then vanishing, and they attack civilians normally. Sometimes military targets, but it's normally just attacks on civilians designed to spread fear, terror, hence terrorism. And I think that's sort of the main distinctive because I mean,
Dispatch out.
most war does have civilian casualties. Civilians are attacked, they die, either because they are actually like aiding the enemy militarily, not like fighting, but production and medics and so forth. Although there's conventions to stop much of that. But like, the atomic bombs didn't exactly just take out the military targets in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And bombing in general is notoriously bad for taking down civilians, which is something I'll discuss a bit later on, but these aren't deliberate attacks on civilians made in warfare.
As in, just normal war.
As in normal
to
warfare,
clarify.
yeah. And I don't know how long we've had the Geneva Convention, but there's a pretty standardized like system of war that we have now
Pod is open again.
on
Let's get you restocked.
both who we can attack, what are acceptable targets, and how to attack, including the banning of different weapon types and so forth. Like, you can't use square bullets, for example,
Yeah.
and various poison bullets. I don't think any biological
Like I said, we
weapons
like
are
rules
allowed
for
anymore.
That said, it's still such a strange concept to say, like, you can only kill each other in certain ways.
Well, I think part of those other ways that are considered inhumane are ones that have lasting effect on civilians. So, radiation fallout, for example, biological.
No, I can understand it. It's
Make
just
your choices.
still strange to be saying, like, it's acceptable to kill someone in such a way, but not some other way.
There's also the
But that's...
because war's not really about killing, it's about taking and holding land, making the other guys not want to fight. And often, I think modern war is pretty lethal, actually. But there's still a lot of people who survive and keep going on. Well, it's still not, it's not like you're shot, you die. Lots of people live. But if you're, say, shot with a poison bullet, even if you win the war, you're still likely to, you're basically certain to die, or at least have all manner of medical complications for the rest of your life. So the rules of war sort of stop a lot of that. Like, there's a bit of the current thing on the whole rules of war is depleted uranium bullets, whether we should be allowed to use them or not, because no one's really sure if they actually do anything radioactive that's bad, or if they're just
They're not
a
too
heavier
bad.
metal bullet. Yeah, I don't think
They're
there's.
used for extreme density, yeah.
Yeah.
But they obviously yeah, they use this for density for armor piercing and for armor actually.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Alright, so why... This is actually a much harder question than I thought when I asked it, but why do we think... Why would someone go to attack as a terrorist and not, say, fight a war?
Because you lose a war. Like, straight up, if the other person has nukes, which the Western world does, you lose the war if you fight them. The only way that anyone could successfully do anything now if they weren't like a major power is terrorism.
Because it makes
Else you
people want
lose.
the...
It's also about the purpose of the war as well. Like, it's a lot of other wars are to defeat things, like defeat. Oh, there's gonna sit down over here. Defeat certain armies or conquer a certain amount of land, whereas ISIS, they want a large war because the version of Islam they subscribe to believes that there's going to be a massive Armageddon type war whereby they will be attacked by the rest of the world and eventually overcome. And so they're trying to hasten that by encouraging everybody to fight them. And so they're doing ideological tactics rather than just open warfare.
Yeah, and ISIS is somewhat exceptional from other terrorist groups in that regard, in that they have actually taken land, and they're basically set up as another country now. I mean, no one wants to call them a country, because that would sort of legitimize their rule. But they have a whole bunch of land. They collect taxes or like tribute from the civilians there. They don't do much for them.
Well, it's more of a
But-
regime that's taken over some place
Yeah.
rather than entity that deserves merit.
Like, it's not a proper government that we should recognize and go, oh, well, they're a country now, let's stop fighting them. But other terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda, for example, maybe they were just never successful, but they didn't seem to really be fighting for that. They wanted to, they just wanted to spread terror. They wanted to turn people against each other, and kill in the name of their jihad. Not for any real, like, strategic reason. Right, so,
Come and get your tools of
I should have started a timer. I never start a timer. So, what do you think can lead people to this sort of warfare? What makes, like, as humans, as people, what makes people join up with them?
Feeling like you have no other option to achieve something.
Time's almost up. Vite.
Well, the same thing I think that draws people to any kind of war, you know, particularly like young guys who feel like, hey,
Break time's
what
over.
is things?
Get back to work.
You see something like this and you go, oh, you know, these guys, they seem to be fighting for a thing, and you're a young Muslim guy, that thing might seem like a, you know, a more exciting thing than what everyone else around you is doing. I don't know. Maybe that's just too vague a way of looking at it, but I think, you know, there's a certain element of it that does appeal to people, particularly people who feel that in their current life they don't have much in the way of power, they don't have much in the way of control, and what these terrorists promise people is, you know, you can be, you know, you can get that power, you can get that control, you can get that, you know, prestige in our new country type thing. People are drawn to it.
I mean, you could say that it appeals to the disenfranchised then.
It does also, like, I agree that there's power and control. There's also idealism sometimes, and like, I'm actually
Yeah.
prone to this myself, in that
There are plenty left.
there's this desire to fight for the world you want to see, to find an ideal and fight for that because you think that's the way things should be, and they aren't. And you see all the things that are wrong with the world and want to do something about it. And especially as young men, we're just sort of prone to fight, to violence, to try and use force to make things happen that way. And like, I'm prone for that. I've just never found a cause worth fighting for, to be honest. Else I probably would be in some military somewhere. Actually, I probably wouldn't because of Christian belief. But anyway, we'll probably
Yeah,
we'll get into that in our next
Christian.
episode.
Come on, Jesse.
But there also that that desire for seeing the world as they want it is really tied into, again, that brand of Islamic faith, whereby violence is encouraged and recommended to bring about the caliphate. That's the ideal of Islamic rule, and so it's justified and encouraged by what their belief system is.
Keep it up.
It's not primarily a secular line of reasoning.
Right, so that leads us nicely into our next segment. But I think we've probably gone about 20 minutes now, so let's bye all for about 10 seconds while I stop the recording and start the next recording. So in our next episode, we'll discuss the place of Islam and religion in these conflicts. See you then.